All right. Good morning. Good morning. We continue our end of year conference. When once we are done with the story of Joseph, then the conference will definitely come to an end. So it might end sooner than we put it in, because we only choose one story to deal with, and then when we are done with that story, we go through the entire thing to make sense of what God is trying to tell us, or what He's preparing us for. This is Eddie Mary welcoming you to our end of year conference 2016. Um, After this morning broadcast, because we are gradually coming to the end of the most delicate part of the story of Joseph, and also um, we are entering into um, we look at the challenges. So right now we're beginning to um, enter into the highway of God's movement, God's mighty move, because there is just so much that you are allowed to go through in life, and then the rest is God's personal intervention for our prosperity. You see, everything that we are trying uh, to minister to you about is to show you one thing. Your assignment for the overall, in fact, let's put it this way: your place in divine history, in human history, is very important. Your place in divine history, in human history, is very important. So you might not think so, but I want you to know so. I'm feeling a little dry here. Let me see what I got here. Feeling a little dry here. Yeah. Excuse me, people of God. I'm feeling my lips are a little bit dry. Let me see what we got here. This is shea butter. Just thickly brown. Yeah, very nice. Feels better now. Yep. You will ask me, why is God interested in why do God has to bother about about you, about me? Well, the reason is that there is it doesn't take one person to do the job. It takes billions of people. It cannot take billions of people. And God really want to establish he's already established his system, but it required a lot of people to work in different departments, intricate um, parts that form different faculties and departments of his system and of his kingdom. The kingdom of God, God's system, the kingdom of heaven, a planet. Required a lot of angels and human to run things. Why? You're dealing with a kingdom, you're dealing with a king. It's a lot of wealth. It's a lot of things that must be running at the same time smoothly. So your place is important in human history. Your place is important in the history of divinity. We don't understand it all. What is the we don't get it all. But what God reveals to us, we run with it. That's how this thing is. We don't understand it all. Why, if somebody have done you so much wrong, you do not eliminate the person immediately, so as to for the smooth running of the overall plan that you have. And one thing that I've come to realize is that God is bound by laws, and it also has to do with us. Choices, destiny, dreams. Most of the drama that you see that is playing out in heaven and on earth, long before we humans came here, has to do with the plans of God for us humans that he had in mind long before the foundation of the earth was laid. Because you see, his plan is always for a very long time. He has things put in place, and at the appropriate time, he's on. But it's one of those things that I spend my days wondering why my God is God, which he is, and Satan rebelled against him. Why allowed him to be? And finally, I was able to find the answer. And it all has to do with us. Because God wants to see who we want and what we want. Very important. Choice making is very important. And in a situation that you are not able to make, you are not capable of making a good choice because of weaknesses, disabilities, and invasion by demons, there's a place for God's intervention so that you can make a choice. God intervenes in people's life and history. He saves, he redeems, he reveals, he releases, he proclaims, in order to give you opportunity to make a choice that you will be devoted to. So that all those who want to be rebels can go ahead. At the end of the day, why create hell all every day? The best thing is all those who choose Lucifer must go with him at the end of the time. And so it's like a mass judgment for them. So you see, this is what is happening here. Just as from Adam till the day that Jesus was hung on the tree, all those who died, all those who left the earth, who were waiting for the Redeemer to come, the Redeemer who spoke about his coming in Genesis. David called Jesus his Lord. He called his son, Jesus, his Lord. And Jesus was saying that to the Jews. If he is his son, how is he his Lord? And they couldn't answer. Just as from the days of Adam till Good Friday, Jesus has to go to paradise to set those who were waiting for him, including Abraham, all of them. That's why he said, before Abraham was, I was. I am. The same way The devil has to wait for all those who make a choice for him so that they can all go with him. So you see, this is where supernatural intelligence play a role. So when you start to think that way, why is it that God doesn't do away with evil once and for all and let just good? No, 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 no. Satan is waiting. God planned it all out so that it's a mass judgment. Just like the rapture, a mass movement. So there is a place where ministering to individual, I've also learned that and put it into practice. There's a place for ministering to the individual, and there's a place for ministering to everybody at the same time, and God act. This morning, we want to begin to look at, because one of the reasons why I was telling you what I'm telling you is we are looking at destiny and dreams, and we are looking at why certain things are delayed. Why did God not just move Joseph and then settle him in one place at one time? And we've dealt with some of those things in the other broadcast. Today, let's look at what happens to him. And by the way, there is something that I have discovered in the book of Genesis. The author and writer of Genesis, or the person who put the oral tradition together as a book with revelations from God, from the Holy Spirit, to remind and to help put what was missing in the gap, or to leave it the way it is. That's the Holy Ghost, because it was his inspiration. One of the things that I have found in the book of Genesis is it is written in such a way that you can understand it, no matter your level of education. And one thing you find in the book of Genesis is repetition. The story is told, and then in the repetition, it is amplified, like explaining. He gives a summary. Every story starts with a summary of the story. Get it very straight so that there is no confusion here. For example, Genesis 1 verse 1 is a summary of what the entire thing is about. And then chapter 1 verse 2 is what happens in between, for who knows how many billions of years, or millions of years, or thousands of years, who knows. But of course, with science, we can begin to look at certain things very carefully. Like verse 2 is the ice age. Okay. So when you read the story of Joseph, you will see in every chapter that the story begins, there is first and foremost a summary of the story. Then the rest of it is an explanation of that summary. So that is why the writer kept talking about repeating that Joseph is in the house of his master. We already have seen it. We already knows it. But he keep repeating it. And we are going to find the same thing in chapter 40. See, last night I spent time to prepare. In chapter 40, you will also see the beginning is a summary. And then the rest is an explanation of the story. And he will keep on repeating that he is in prison. He will keep repeating it. We already know that he is. So you have to get used to the way that each culture tells their story. They repeat to explain, to reveal more, to tell you more, so that you understand that what the person is telling you is the same story. But he wants you to understand a little bit more how it all happened. Let's go. Chapter 40, verse 1.
It came to pass after these things that the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt offended their lord,
Okay.
the king of Egypt.
Okay, stop there. The exact thing that happens to Joseph is what happened to the chief butler. The chief butler is the here it talks about the butler and the baker, but as you go on, you will see that there are many bakers and many butlers. But these are the leaders, the chief. Just like there were servants in the house of Potiphar, but the chief servant, now we understand clearly that Joseph was a chief servant. He was a chief servant. So as we read the chapters of Genesis, we find out more how life in Egypt was organized. Because we are dealing with royal houses. We are dealing with houses connected to the thrones, to the throne of Egypt. They offended. What they did, we are not told. How did they offend, we are not told. So what happened to Joseph is that he offended his master, the captain of the executioners, the captain of the guard of the throne. So when people commit a misdemeanor or a felony against their bosses in Egypt, it was considered, the language for it is offense. They offended. And even if it's a small thing and the person doesn't want to see your face, maybe for some season or maybe forever, they throw the person into. So there were different kinds of jail in Egypt. There was a jail for the king, where all those who work for the king, if they are servant, either chief servant or small servant, offended, or their master didn't find favor in their sight anymore, they throw them into that particular prison. And that particular prison is the king's prison. So all the people who work for the king, that's where their prisoners went. So we will accept the fact here that it was mainly for offenses connected to the throne. So what Potiphar's wife accused Joseph of was an offense against the throne, because the husband works for the throne. That's how it is. So this is getting serious here, because we were looking at it in chapter 39 as just ordinary thing that happened, and then the accusation led to him being thrown into the king's jail, into the king's prison. Well, we are now seeing that it's more than that. We are now seeing that anyone who works for the king of Egypt, for Pharaoh, if anyone who works under you or who serves you committed a crime or offended you, it was considered to be an offense against Pharaoh himself. Because in one way or the other, they protected him or they represented him. And I can understand why, as we are going to read in subsequent chapters, why anywhere, anything that Joseph said, and anywhere where he appeared, people bowed down to the ground before him. Why? Because he was a symbol of the throne. That's how this thing is. So you see, the stories help us to throw light on what was happening at that time so that we can learn. Don't take your life and activity very common, because you represent the throne of heaven on the earth. Stop looking at yourself as somebody who has failed. Even if you failed, stand up and keep moving in life. Don't let what people have done against you be the reason why you lack passion. You lack the charismata, the charismatic persuasion and ability and passion to do great things in life. So these two men, the chief handler of Pharaoh's court, it means that's a very important position. To be a chief baker, you are the one that bake all that he eats, all the pastries, bread, cakes, all kind of stuff. You are the one in charge of that department. You make sure the best is produced for the royal household and for the king himself. In fact, you are the one that saves the king his own. You bring it to him, not just anybody. So you cannot just go into his presence just with anything. This is the power that rules the land, that runs the land. So only the best is good enough for him. And I want you to begin to look at your life that way. Only the best is good enough for you. There is a place you are going to reach in life that only the best, the very best, is good enough to be with you or around you. And that's how the king of Egypt and those who work for him, his ministers, his secretaries, those in charge of various departments of the state, that's how they were looked at, they were considered. And I want you to begin to see your life that way also. You are a chief official of the kingdom of heaven on the earth. The butler and the baker means that the life of the king is in your hand. So when you pour wine or you bring water, something for the king to drink and his household, you are the first person to test it. When you open the bottle of wine, You pour into your own cup and drink before him. You must drink before him. And then you pour and you give to him to drink. Reason, his security and his being alive matters a lot. It's a matter of high top priority. So it's not just anybody who is allowed to do that kind of job, so that the king does not drink poison and die. Because you can have all the people and you trust them, but they can kill you easily. They can topple you very easily. That's why where I do not trust, I do not eat. Where I do not trust, I do not drink. Oh, sit down and let's make something for you. No, thank you very much, because I don't trust anybody there. See, the story of Joseph is telling us, is revealing things that you need to know. It's not everybody who you think they like you or love you really want you to be alive. Many of them want a way to eliminate you. If they can poison you, they will poison you and eliminate you. And they've been doing poisoning people, poisoning your food, poisoning your water, poisoning your juice, poisoning your wine. They've been using poisoning and eliminating people who should have lived very long to fulfill their assignments. So that's why you don't take what you eat and what you drink very lightly. You don't do it. So this king has somebody. You bring him food, you cut the food and eat before his presence and before the presence of his official. You eat it, and they will wait for a few minutes. You don't collapse and die, then you can save the king. And then they will eat. You pour the wine or the water, you drink first, and while the table is being set, they wait to see whether you drop and die. You don't, then you serve the king. Very important position. And these two guys, the butler and the baker, the chief butler and the chief baker. I mean, for example, if the king's household are to eat, the chief baker or the chief, there is the chief baker, there is also I do not understand whether the chief baker is also the chief steward. That is, he also cook or in charge of the other food. I am not sure of that, because that would be a lot of work for one person. So it's possible it's a different department that cook other food, but this one was just the chief baker to bake. Here we are looking at luxury, how things are organized easily for luxury, so that you can do your job quick and better. You're healthy, and then your production is more. You are more effective if you are healthy and happy. That's what we are looking at here. Somebody like myself, I've spent some time this year to study the things that pertains to my blood group, the things that pertains to my health history. And I've been able to know what kind of food do I eat all the time. And there are two kinds of food that I must just concentrate on at all times. Food that gives me energy and protein. Why? Because of my makeup. And you must know the food that are there just for those. Why I spend so much time ministering to people. So you give up too much energy. Just talking alone take away a lot of your energy. Just praying for people alone, or just being in the presence of God alone. The only time you don't lose so much energy is when God appears in the thing. And it's not all the time that you expect him to. So those are some of the price that I have to pay. So what kind of food will you eat to replenish very quickly? Have you learned what kind of food and drink you need to survive the earth? It's not everything that you have to eat. Hallelujah. And what we are talking about here, you are talking about professionals producing the best in their field for the king. You have to begin to prepare now for a lifestyle in which many of you are going to have a cook, a baker. You're going to have that. You're going to have somebody who is going to be in charge of your household, someone you can trust, who can administer your wealth, because it's a lot of headache to be able to administer large wealth. So while you're asking God to bless you with money and material resources, just be prepared for what I'm telling you. It's gonna take time and energy out of you to run a lot of things. So you're gonna need a lot of people to run it. And there must be people that you trust. So the crime of Joseph, because Joseph now is a criminal, even though he did not do it, it's an accused crime. He was accused of it. I want you to be aware of this. It was considered an offense against Pharaoh, because that is Pharaoh's official. And that's why Joseph was thrown into Pharaoh's prison, into the prison of the king. Because there were other kinds of prison where ordinary prisoners were thrown. But there is a special one for the king and his officials. Where their prisoners go was different. See how intelligent these guys are. How well organized they are. And this complicated the entire thing for Joseph, because the way we were looking at it, it sounded so simple. But now you are seeing that it's more complicated and more dangerous. His life is more complicated and more dangerous than that. And let me tell you something that you need to know. I hope you are aware by now that by Joseph being thrown into the royal prison, that he also stands the chance of being executed. This is what you don't hear. Because if you stay there too long and your case is not tried and you are acquitted and sent away to carry on with your life, you will be brought out and executed. You will be hanged. Seriously. Those in that prison, because we hear towards the end of chapter 39 of the keeper of the prison and God being good and nice to Joseph in the prison. And he was also leading. He was doing leadership thing in the prison, being managing the resources. Because one thing that Joseph was good at is managing the resources of anywhere he went. That was his kind of administration. His kind of administration was geared towards managing resources effectively. and also managing human beings effectively, those that he is in charge of them. Being able to relate with those at the top is a different game for him altogether. And I talk about his lack of psychosocial skill because he was still a young person. And young people most of the time think they know it all. So Joseph has escaped death in the land of Canaan from the hand of his brother. Are you aware that now he stands the chance of being beheaded or being hanged? Or God forbid, he will be allowed to stay in that prison till the day he dies. Seriously. Or he will be along the way, if he grows older, now they will remove him from that jail and he will be doing menial job, because at that time they cannot use his leadership skill anymore. How do I know? When he spoke to the chief butler, Joseph said, "Put a word for me before Pharaoh, because I didn't commit any crime to be here, and I was stolen from my own country, from among my own people, and I was brought here to Egypt." He did not say, "Put a word for me to my master Potiphar. Try and convince him that I did not do this crime." Because now Joseph is a criminal. See, these are things that people fail to see here. He's now a criminal. And he stands the chance of being executed because he has committed a felony and a crime against the throne. A crime against an official of Pharaoh. What you think was just something that just happened is now a federal offense. Instead, we didn't hear Joseph telling the chief butler to talk to Potiphar. Instead, we don't even see Joseph telling the keeper, the person who ran the jail, to talk to Potiphar to get him out. No, we didn't see that. Instead, he is appealing to Pharaoh directly. Put a word for me before Pharaoh. Why? Because the only person that can get Joseph out of that prison was Pharaoh. Only Pharaoh can get somebody out of that federal royal prison. If you are thrown in, only the king can override everything to get you out. And he knew it. When you are thrown in, you cannot come out. You are forgotten until the day that has been secretly put together for your execution. That's what it is. So certain things have been running after Joseph, and I want you to take a look at it. Number one, accusation. He was accused in the land of Canaan of trying to be in charge, thinking he's better than them. He was judged. He was condemned. He was sold. And his brothers turned their back on him after selling him, and they didn't want to see his face no more. He escaped death there. And in Egypt, death was waiting for him. That was what was happening in the life of Joseph. That's why when one thing happened in your life, one time, go and fast and pray and destroy any force or energy thing that has formed with that event. Destroy the event, its effect and consequences in every realm. Destroy it. If not, darkness will seize that one negative event, that one bad news, to torment and to pursue you in order to kill you, in order to eliminate you. And now the death that he escaped from, his blood being shed by his brothers, now he's waiting for his blood to be shed by the law of the land. That was what was happening here. If you ended up in that jail, there's no way out for you. Only God can intervene on your behalf. Read the next verse, please, my dear.
And Pharaoh was angry with his two officers, the chief butler and the chief baker.
Okay, now it's been made very clear. The offense was he was angry with them. Still, we do not know what happened. Were they not baking right? Were they not giving him the best of their professionalism? And then he got angry at them. Did he hear that they were planning something against him? We don't know. We do not know. But all we can tell is that something bad has happened. Or were they accused like Joseph was accused? I don't know. Because Joseph's master Potiphar was angry at Joseph and didn't even spend any time to find out the detail, whether it was true or not. And he got his butt bundled and thrown into jail, into prison. Will this be the same thing? I don't know. We are not told what the anger is about. Keep reading, my dear.
So he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard.
Okay, listen to this. Listen to this. Listen to this. This is a complicated situation. This is a complicated situation. Either the author is telling us the same, that the keeper of the prison is the guard, which is not true. Because in chapter 39, the keeper of the prison showed Joseph kindness. And the keeper of the prison is not Potiphar. Because the captain of the guard is Potiphar. This is what we are seeing here. Anybody who offended any of Pharaoh's official, if you work for any of his official and you offended, or if you work directly with Pharaoh and you don't find favor in their sight anymore, you are accused and they believe what you accused, or actually you did that thing. The person in all of Egypt, the person who killed the prisoners, the person who hanged them, and the person who also handcuffed them and bring them to that jail was Potiphar. Are you guys getting how complicated and dangerous this is? The person who was in charge, that is, let me put it this way, where the prison paperwork was processed was in Potiphar's house. Are you kidding me? The captain of the guard was in charge of signing off on people for them to become prisoners. So they passed through him. They passed through his house. Seriously. Please read it again so that we can hear it.
So he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard.
Listen to that. Listen to that. Everyone who offended against the throne were handed over to Potiphar. So talk less of you. You work for Potiphar. Your case will even be the worst. So Joseph's case is far more worse than when he was in Canaan. It's worse because his master was the one that commanded who get hanged. If Pharaoh say release, he's the one who released them, who signed up on their release. If people are to be, if royal people, because let me share with you how it is. When you work for any official of Pharaoh, you are now part of the royal household. So Potiphar, Joseph's former master, kept these people in custody. And then when he signed off on them, that is after trying them. But Joseph wasn't tried. Possible he was, we are not told. But in such a trial, how do you think that his word will be believable? What about if his master's wife has told the other servants to say the same thing, that they saw it? And how are you alone? You are insignificant because you are Hebrew. See, the mockery and the how do I put it? The mockery and the hatred for the Jewish people did not start today. Started as far back as the days in which, see, one crime happened, one problem happened, and from that time, that spirit has not left the Jewish people. And let me explain. The hatred for Jewish people, the hatred between the Hebrews, the Jews, and the Arabs, the Muslims. I'm going to explain something that you need to know. This is very touchy subject. The hatred between Muslims and the Hebrews, the Jews, started during the time of two of the patriarchs. Number one, it started when Sarah persuaded Abraham to send Ishmael, his very blood, away. So you started seeing Ishmaelites among the different nations of the world. They became instead of following correctly the ways of Abraham, out of anger that they were thrown out of Abraham's family, they now allied themselves with the culture of Arabia. Because at this time we are talking about ancient Egyptians were not Arabs. You have to notice they were not Arab. They were more of, because some of the historians say that ancient Egyptians were actually black people. because actually they're Africans. Egyptians are Africans. The Midianites were also of black ancestry. How do we know? Because Moses' wife was African, was black, was of African ancestry. Either you call them Nubian or whatever. They are the same thing. They are using different languages. The African people that you are talking about. Some African people are dark skinned, some are chocolate skinned, some are very dark skinned. Because out of the African gene, every color is produced. Because every human being has their origin in the East African Valley. Every human being, no matter their color. So that's why if somebody want to discriminate you because you are fair skin, you are chocolate skin, you are black skin, tell that person to go to hell. It can't even reuse that same word. I'm using it. Because they don't understand history. Neither do they understand modern anthropology, modern scientific anthropology, or their modern biology. They don't. Color does not show intelligence. Color doesn't also show superiority. It doesn't. So from the time that Abraham, under the authority of Sarah, sent Ishmael and Hagar away, they now allied themselves. Those who held them were the different way of Arabian descent mostly. And that's why we see the Midianites, they have the Ishmaelites of Arab descent there. India, Africa, the Arabs, the Egyptians, all these people, they are very ancient. They've been there for a long time. And they traded with each other in peace. They didn't have all this craziness that we are having today. Until the coming of Muhammad, who came and destroyed the peace and everything that was reigning in the then world. He came and destroyed it. And he introduced bloodshed where there was none in order to conquer. Because remember, the person who lives in the desert will always envy the one who lives in the grassland, who has water and all those things. And we are not going there. And the Ishmaelites, let's call them, of the Arabs who are connected with Ishmael, they've never forgotten their history of how they were thrown out of their inheritance. But then they forgot to remember the promise of God to also bless them, because they are Abraham's seed as well. Because if you are connected with Abraham bloodline, you automatically blessed. That's why I'm doing the bloodline cleansing. A lot of people do not understand why I'm doing the bloodline cleansing and connecting you to the bloodline of Jesus, because if you are there, you are automatically blessed. It's something that you just automatically inherit. The oil that we find in the Arabian desert is part of the promise of God to bless them. Is God simply fulfilling so that they cannot stand in judgment and say that God did not keep his command to Ishmael. He did. And he is. The second feud that created the hatred, second one that created the hatred, was when his brothers, the brothers of Joseph, sold Joseph to no other people but to the Ishmaelites, to the Arabs. That is the second time. And the hatred, the story of a Hebrew being sold to Ishmaelites of Arab descent who were living among the nation of the Midianites has never stopped to be told of what they did to Joseph. It was his brothers who did it. And then Potiphar's wife tells us the rest of the story. You brought a Hebrew here to come and mock us. So the Arabs always think that they are better off than the Jews. And the Jews think they are better off than the Arabs. The two events, Ishmael being sent out and Joseph being sold to the Ishmaelites, of all people. See how history is being turned back. Why? Do you think that the Egyptians did not know the history of the ancestry? That Ishmael, son of Abraham, was thrown out from inheritance. And so they don't want to have anything to do with the Jews. Why? Because they believe the Jews stole their original inheritance that belongs to them through Abraham. And instead it was given to Isaac. You think that they have forgotten that story? They've not forgotten it. You think people have forgotten the story of how your father became somebody or your mother became somebody? You think they've forgotten? You think the Egyptian forgot that the wealth of Abraham was given to him by Egypt? Abraham never became wealthy until Pharaoh made him one. Pharaoh made him one. And part of the wealth, covenant wealth, was a girl called Hagar from Egypt. So they've not forgotten how Pharaoh, with an open hand, gave Abraham servants, and one of them was sent away empty-handed. But Pharaoh did not send away Abraham empty-handed to compensate him for taking his wife. But that their daughter was sent away, their daughter and the son was sent away empty-handed. People do not forget this history. Even the story of Esther. When you read the book of Esther, you will see that it's ancient feud. And God opened my eyes through the study of history. Not just the study of physical history, but also looking at history from Revelation point of view. That all we see between the Jews and the rest in the kingdom of Medes and Persia was what they were told as each person was born into history. What Samuel did to Agag. The person that Saul spared, the king that Saul spared, go and see. His offering came back. And after how many years, Esther and her uncle had to pay a price for the mistake, for a warfare between Israel and King Agag. So many things we think people do not remember. People do. They pass it on secretly. And the Ishmaelites were happy buying off, buying a Jew, retaliation. for how the Jews threw their mother and father out, Hagar and Ishmael. People don't forget those histories. I'm serious, they are not forgotten. And that was why when Potiphar heard the story of the wife about Joseph, he didn't even consider that this guy has been honest and hardworking. He simply threw him into prison where he will, so that Potiphar will not be the one to watch him being hanged. He will sign off on it, but he won't be there. Think about that. These are the two foundations that the war between the Jews and the Arabs, the Muslims, has been. Because the Arabs were not Muslim. Even after Jesus came and went, Arabs were not Muslims until the crazy guy came. Muhammad came. And he now saw that politics must go hand in hand with religion. And that for him to conquer the people, he has to formulate a religion for them and put them under that yoke. That the easiest way for you to rule people very easily is make them worship something and you're in charge of what they worship. That's it. This is getting interesting. And who do you think will be interested in coming to deliver a Hebrew boy? Why do you think they will be interested in him? When they already know the history of what happened to their own ancestors through them. So it's like saying Abraham came to our country, we gave him food, we gave him drink, we gave him whatever he wanted. We gave him gold and silver and everything, and they did. And this is what we are repaid. He married our daughter through his wife. And then they send our daughter to go and wander in the wilderness and his son. But for God, they know this history. You cannot forget the history of whoever insulted your father or your uncle that took over the land that belongs to you. You can't forget those history. And you are telling me that you are going to be nice to their kids? You'll only be a fool to do that. The father has already done a lot of evil against you guys. And you are saying it's because of Jesus. No, not me. I don't do that. I don't play that game. You want me to be nice to you? Then give me back the land that belongs to me. I'm like David. Go and read the story of David. David did not say, okay, you guys can have it. You guys can have is it Milcah or whatever? Saul's daughter that he worked hard to have. No. You don't need to lose anything that you work hard for. Don't lose it. Profit from it. My dear, keep reading, please.
So he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard in the prison, the place where Joseph was confined. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, so they were in custody for a while.
Okay. There are two things happening here. The same conflict we run into when the word Midianite Ishmaelite is used. We also run into the same conflict here. So that you don't know when he's talking about Potiphar or when he's talking about, they use the word like keeper of the prison, captain of the guard, all kind of stuff, but we are not gonna waste our time with storytellers language that is inconsistent with the way we tell story these days. Let's just get this straight. The butler and the baker were put in the prison where Joseph was. Period. Let's go. Continue, my dear.
Number 5. Then the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison, had a dream.
See, he's still repeating that they were confined. He's talking about them. The same thing. He's repeating. It's a repetition. It's a way of telling a story. The both of them had a dream. Let's go to the dream. That's the most important thing here.
Each man's dream in one night, and each man's dream with its own interpretation.
There we go.
And Joseph came into them in the morning and looked at them and saw that they were sad.
Okay, now look at this. What are we learning from here? In spite of the fact that his brothers sold him, in spite of the fact that Pharaoh threw his butt in jail, listen to what we know about Joseph. This is part of his character. Joseph succeeded in life because he had a strong character in this area. He didn't allow any evil by any human being. What they said, what they did, he never allowed any of it to control him. He never. How do we know? He was able to discern others who were sad. So it means that even in the prison, Joseph was doing the work of a chaplain also. The work of a counselor, a caregiver, a psychologist, a social cheerleader. What about his own trouble? It was there, but it wasn't important to him. Why? See, if you don't attach energy to an evil that has happened to you, you'll get out of it very quickly. If something has happened in your life that was bad, and you don't concentrate on it, you concentrate on what you are supposed to do in its leadership and administrative skills, in managing that prison, in managing the people there, in making sure that they were fed, they were clothed, they were cheerful. And that's what Joseph was doing. What about his own problem? He didn't pay attention to it. It was not important. The trouble that you are not ready to give it energy will sooner or later run away from you. I'm telling you this. The evil story, bad thing that has happened in your life that you are no longer willing to talk about will be wiped out of your memory sooner or later, so that you can concentrate in the best that is to come. How do we know that Joseph practiced the life of uncommon expectation of something good to happen to him? It's the way he talked and the way that the Bible described, the way he approaches these two men, the chief butler and the chief baker. He's the one encouraging them. He's the one telling them, why are you guys sad today? You guys used to be cheerful. I mean, are they waiting to be released or waiting to be executed? That's anybody who is in that prison, that's what they are waiting for. Or the worst scenario, they leave you there. Because that's a maximum prison. They leave you there and you stay there and die there. it began to dawn on Joseph that it's possible they will allow him to die in that prison. You're going to see why. But here, he's cheering these guys up. What's your problem? Watch your gift. The gift that started running in you since you were a child. Because it might as well be what will deliver you. What will give you the money, the material resources, and the place of power. Continue reading, my dear.
So he asked Pharaoh's officers who were with him in the custody of his Lord's house, saying, "Why do you look so sad today?" And they said to him, "We each had a dream, and there is no interpreter of it." So Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to God?"
Stop there. Stop there. Same thing he said to Pharaoh. Do not interpretations belong to God? Why are you worried about your dreams? There's someone who has the interpretation of every dream. Continue.
"Tell them to me, please." Then the chief butler told his dream to Joseph.
Why did Joseph tell them to tell him his dream? Why did Joseph tell these two guys to tell him their dreams? I'll tell you why. Even though he played cool among his brethren when he told the two dreams that he had, that started causing more jealousy. We knew that from that time on, Joseph did not just have the gift of dreaming dreams. Dreams mean your ability to see into the future, or your ability to see into what has happened in the past or what is happening right now in the present. You're seeing from the supernatural into the realms of the past, present, and future. That's also the meaning of dreams. Dreams is your ability to see through the means of the mind or of the spirit into the past, present, and future. And he write that down. But also, Joseph began to realize that he possesses not just the gift of dreaming, but also of interpretation of dreams. He had the gift. Continue.
Then the chief butler told his dream to Joseph.
Okay, do you know your gift? Are you aware of what God has given to you? Are you aware of what you can do very easily? It comes easy to you. Continue. Let's hear what the chief butler said.
"Behold, in my dream, a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches. It was as though it budded. Its blossoms shot forth, and its clusters brought forth ripe grapes. The
Okay.
Pharaoh's cup."
Okay, let's stop there. Let's stop there.
Okay.
Let's stop there. Let me look at the time here. Okay, 9:18. We'll stop here. When we come back in the evening, we'll pick from here. Now, from tonight, after tonight's service, we will no longer be having the morning services because the story is gradually going into the center of events. So we can no longer have the morning services. Stops this morning. There will no longer be morning service. We are done with that. We use the morning system to push it quickly forward. So you don't need to wake up early in the morning and come. If I do anything, I'll put it in there, but we'll be meeting 8 p.m. every day until we are done with this story, and then we'll stop. Whether we reach December 23 or not, when once we are done with this story, it comes to an end. That's the way I do it. So from tomorrow, it will only be night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. So the morning service ends right now, and we will only have it every night now, because we are going gradually to finish the story. We are going now to finish the story. In the next few videos, we will cover a lot of ground. All right. So I want to thank you, those of you who have been coming to the morning services. So I will start now seeing you every night at 9 p.m. 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. And any of the night that I will not be here, because the possibility of me flying out to go and speak somewhere for sometimes there's a contract that I'm trying to do with some people since this morning. I'm going to be training some people for a group. So if it happens that I travel within this week or next week, but you don't need to worry, because every evening I will come in on the phone or on the television broadcasts, and it will be the same thing. We will continue. So please make sure that you are there every evening for this. So Geneva, please do let them know the change of event, that it is now 9 p.m. And I want to thank you for your availability and dedication. And we are stopping here. This is a lot of things to be picking out of this story. So tonight we are going to begin to look at the story of the interpretation of the dreams. How do you interpret dreams? What do you look for? How do you know that this is exactly what it is? Tonight we'll deal with that. We will deal with that tonight. And then the possibility of us going into the dreams of Pharaoh. And you will also see how it was not just God that opened the doors for Joseph. He opened his own door. You're going to see it. So while you're waiting for God to open your door, God is asking you to go ahead and open the door. We'll all come to see it in the next 1 or 2 days. This is Idika Mary saying to you, you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.